On the Fringe with Dan, RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. Well, we've made it to Election Day. This is like the calm of the storm. This is the center of the storm, if you will, right? It's been crazy leading up to this day, and then it's going to probably be some extensive crazy after this day. Nobody on the Donald Trump side of anything is going to be allowed to make any calls that they won. I doubt that'll be allowed at all coming up, period. By anybody. Certainly anyone that's like nobody like me, if they try to do it, we'll literally have our channels banned or heavily censored, whichever. So don't expect anything like that to come out. What I'm kind of wanting to do is give people a little heads up, I think, of what we've sort of got to expect ahead of us. And honestly, I'm going to tell you what I think is kind of going on right now, at least my feeling of the matter. So to me, it kind of, and I don't know about you guys, there's certainly a lot of anxiety, a lot of anticipation, a lot of like nervousness. And I think everybody's feeling that. There's both sides of this. But ultimately, I feel like it's probably going to be it's going to be a Trump victory, I think, in the end. But I think people are afraid to relax. I think people are afraid to kind of trust that. I think people are kind of and for good reason. Like today still has to happen. Votes still need to occur. This whole trusting in humanity, this part needs to play out. This calm day, this day where we all have to do our thing. That still has to happen. And if that doesn't happen appropriately, then, yeah, that could change everything. So today is going to be a very, very important day. Now, there's a lot being talked about. We got a couple Q posts that we're going to share that are, I think, meant to be a little bit inspiring, but also talking about some of these dark days that could very well be coming up ahead. There is a coup attempt happening right now. And they're all in on it. You can tell that they're even going further on some of the lockdown measures and going further in some other areas of trying to restrict people. They've done a couple. I've got a couple stories to share with some voting machine issues and also some good news to share around what's happening with some of these governors. Meg Whitmer, or whatever her name was, the one in Michigan, she was the first one. But now Gavin Newsom has actually had the courts say, no, sorry, buddy. So there's things that are actually occurring. Now, I kind of wanted to set the pace. Even if Trump loses, let's just say hypothetically that happens, you've got to still look at the fact that, one, he helped build up an economy, which is fantastic. Two, he has gotten movement on COVID vaccines, Regeneron, and all these other things. Three, he has put a bunch of judges in place, Now, they might want to pack the courts and all that, but there's still votes that have to happen. There's still the people that have to support it. I mean, if they go and start making crazy decisions and then people freak out and run into the streets, then kind of have a similar problem that they've already had. So there's been a lot of judges that have been put into place. There's a lot of attention. A lot of people have woken up over the past 4 years as to how the deep state works, how it's been playing out before our eyes for so long, how media has been manipulated against us, how there's opinions that are forced on us, and for a long time, many of us just thought they were telling us the truth. So no matter what happens, if you think about where we are right now as a mass, as a country, as a whole, compared to where we were 4 years ago, we've come a long way. No matter who becomes president. Now, again, do I think Biden's going to win? No. Do I think a lot of early voting totally went to him? Yeah, probably. And to be honest, I'm sure quite a bit went to Trump as well. But today is what they're calling the red wave, and what the media is going to try to portray it as, and this is one of the first posts. We'll just get right into it. 4948, there's a Twitter status from Tim Murtaugh. So what they're really going to try to call this is the red mirage. The media is going to do everything in its power today to downplay, to essentially get you feeling bummed. Now, from a manifesting standpoint, I don't talk about this on this channel much. Dan RadioStyle is my other channel. I talk a lot about that kind of crap. But from a standpoint of manifestation, what you think about and how you feel about it actually puts energy towards it, right? So if you're worried that Biden's going to win and you're nervous and scared, which is what the media needs you to feel, then you actually help bring about that. And how that kind of manifests, just to spend a second here, is if everybody feels like, oh, there's no chance of winning, then they're not going to go out and vote. And the people that vote today predominantly are probably going to be towards Trump. So by trying to play this down, the media is allowed to do this. Nobody else is allowed to say anything, but the media is allowed to make it sound like there's no chance. And by getting you to feel that way, they win. So again, very important that we get out and vote today, for sure. Today is the last day. So it's very important that we understand that there is more going on than we will be allowed to know. And there are, as we've been told, there are things in place that are meant to keep cheating from occurring. And I don't want to get too specific because it's dangerous, but just to talk about two incidents that showed up, Epoch Times was talking about it today. Georgia County saying all polling stations are up and running after Election Day glitch. Ohio's Franklin County was using backup systems to check in voters after technical problems. Now, this was something we were hearing stories about anyways, was that there was going to be some shenanigans on the day of voting, that they were going to be able to slow things down but not stop it. So this was expected. It truly was. And as you can see, the backup plans worked, and we've gotten things back up and running. So that didn't work. Again, all assets are deployed. Everything is out. This is the day. We are, again, it's going to seem calm because this hurricane spinning around us, this Cat 6, which doesn't even exist because it's so gnarly, it's spinning around us. And yesterday was totally crazy, and tomorrow is going to be totally crazy. But right now, it's this weird, calm malaise going on where we're just going to vote today, and everything's cool. So we're going to see, again, how that all plays out. Now, to get into some of what they wrote here, which I thought was pretty good. So the Trump campaign statement on Democrat plans to delegitimize Election Day results. Now, this is just, I don't know who wrote this initially, if this was the Trump campaign, probably. Justin Clark. Okay, that's apparently who wrote it. But Democrats are panicking because Joe Biden has not run up a large enough lead in early votes in battleground states. And they know that President Donald Trump's in-person votes on Election Day will make up the difference and propel him to victory. Biden's political operatives have already been distributing talking points and research to delegitimize Election Day results by coaching surrogates to refer to the president's Election Day success as a red mirage. The operatives are advising surrogates and media to create a smokescreen by casting blame all around, imagining postal delays or falsely claiming that mail-in ballots that have simply not been returned should be considered legitimate votes that need to be counted. None of this will be true, but it will held up as proof that President Trump's victory is a so-called red mirage. No one should fall for it. Again, this is why I'm talking about what I'm talking about, giving you some context to what's actually going to happen today. So when it does happen, you're like, okay, this is what I heard. Wow, they're convincing. Woo! Man, I almost believed them for a second. Thank God Dan RadioStyle was talking about that. But we are aware that Democrats have already cut television ads that they are prepared to deploy to further cement the red mirage misinformation, seeking to convince people that all Joe Biden would need for victory is more time, extending well beyond Election Day. At the same time, we fully anticipate that Democrats will be in court arguing to extend deadlines for accepting and counting votes mailed and received well past deadlines enacted by individual state laws. Americans should remember that Biden has assembled a massive team of lawyers who will try to loosen election integrity so that they can steal this election coup attempt happening now. They want to steal this election. And also, they want to recall that Hillary Clinton advised Biden not to concede defeat under any circumstances. The last gasp of the Biden campaign will be ugly and it will be ruthless. That is what we have coming before us. Under no circumstances is Biden going to concede defeat. It's just not going to happen unless he's passed away, and then in which case Kamala Harris wouldn't concede. I don't know how that works either, by the way. I'm assuming if he doesn't get inaugurated, I don't know how that works if something happened to Biden before being inaugurated, even though he might get voted, right? Anyway, it's craziness. Anywho, what actually has happened is that Democrats fielded a candidate in Joe Biden who excites virtually no one, and his potential voters are not motivated to go to the polls in person. Democrats also made the mistake of spending months frightening their supporters away from voting in person because of the coronavirus, and now they've realized their early vote lead will not be enough. Biden's campaigns also committed the political sin of failing to build a group game or field operation, and now they are paying the price with their inability to turn out supporters. Biden knows that the votes he already has in the bank, though, through early voting, are from supporters they already had. So he has cannibalized his own election day turnout. Because of this Biden predicament, we are on guard for Democrats to attempt to subvert state deadlines for receiving and counting ballots, and we will fight to make sure they adhere to the law. President Trump wants every eligible voter to be able to vote once, and have it counted. Very important to get out and vote in person today. I mean, if you've already sent in your votes, awesome, well done, good job. But get out in person, vote today. It's a must. It's probably the most important election we're ever going to have. And as we've heard, all stops are out. I saw an article that was talking about Pelosi is already preparing for if Congress needs to be involved with deciding the election, which that's not how it plays out. The only way that happens is if death happens. When it comes to the elections, most likely it's going to fall into the Supreme Court. And if not, we've had, I guess, jurisprudence. I think that's correct to say it that way. But they've had cases in the past where it was decided by the states, not the Congress, but the actual states. Anyway, I don't fully understand it, but it's not quite the way Pelosi's trying to play it out. So again, we'll see how all of this happens. But is this a red wave or a red mirage? And I'm really, honestly, pretty sure this is going to be a huge red wave, not just a red tsunami. Like it's just going to just envelop, and I think it's going to bury any of the pre-votes. And that is really what we're counting on, I think, to a large extent, is that there is so many more votes for Trump than the potential ones that haven't been counted yet. And they have an idea through how many absentee ballots were requested, how many votes were actually sent out, or mail ballots were actually sent out. So they've got some numbers that they can play with, even though they're probably not legitimate. But whatever, we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. Again, I'm not trying to speak negatively. I'm just trying to inform. We've got a day in front of us, and there's going to be a bit of a blackout as far as what people can say regarding who won, who didn't win. And I think anybody that even tries to talk about it after is probably, at least in the YouTube and Twitter and all that, are going to have to be very careful on how they phrase things or how they portray it. Let's put it that way. Post 49, cool numbers. Got a YouTube video. It's The Last of the Mohicans, same thing, right? Which is a very popular song. And again, I love it. It's a beautiful song when you listen to it, but I can't play it. And certainly it's, that it is what it is. But anyway, one thing we got to all remember is this is a nation under God, and we're going to have a new birth of freedom starting after this election. And that government is going to be of the people, by the people, for the people, and it shall not perish from the earth. Now, that actually is what Abraham Lincoln said in 1863, and actually has never been more appropriate, correct? I mean, Trump has likened himself to two very interesting historic figures for a very interesting reason. Obviously, Lincoln, I think most of us know our history well enough to know, yeah, he did some cool stuff. Andrew Jackson's the other one. And at least the one thing that Jackson's super famous for is kicking the Fed out. And since Trump has come into office, the Fed has come in under the Treasury. So interesting to see, and I think the next 4 years we're going to get to see how that plays out as well. There is a huge dismantling that is occurring, and the deep state is fighting this tooth and nail because they know that this is the end of their world, and I feel fine, right? But this is truly the end of, that's why they keep talking about the sky is falling, the sky is falling. For them, it is. It is truly, truly falling. Now, couple side points that I want to make here that I think are stuff we need to keep in the back of our heads while this all plays out. One great example that I thought was funny, and I remember when I was younger, so this psychiatrist who gets paid to call Trump unstable is beloved by CNN's FDA, BG, I don't know who the hell that is, and House Dems, and says Hitler is better than Trump. Now, I remember when I was in high school, even, this 100 years ago, but when I was in high school, you were not allowed, a doctor would come on and say, well, I haven't actually been able to spend time with this individual, so I can't really say what's wrong with them. But some of the things they're saying seem like this. But any real doctor, any real shrink that's out there will acknowledge the fact that you can't diagnose someone based off a couple interviews. You can't. Now, maybe if you watched thousands of interviews, you could make assessments about how they are once the cameras are on and once they're sitting in front of an open mic. But that doesn't speak to how they are when no one's around. You have to actually ask people questions and dig into their deep, dark secrets and open up that freaky closet and be like, oh my God, and shut it close again because you saw so many scary things. Like, that's how you assess whether or not somebody's better than Hitler or not. So again, keep these things in mind. We've got all sorts of pundits, media, all these people that we're supposed to be able to trust that are saying stuff that's outright just misinformation, or they can't really make an assessment because they've never spent any time with this individual. So you can say someone has crazy thoughts, but maybe you don't truly know the extent of it, or you just catching some of the weird ones they're having at the moment, but 98% of the time they're doing fine. So keep these things in mind because we're going to hear everything under the sun. Now, I got some great news to share with us. A couple awesome articles to share, and then a kind of a good closing. Judges ruled Governor Newsom, or Mussolini, as we like to call him, has violated the California Constitution again with the June order for mail-in ballots. A judge tentatively ruled on November 2nd that California Gavin Newsom overstepped his authority when he issued an executive order in June requiring all counties in the state to send mail-in ballots to every registered voter for the November 3rd election. Sutter County Superior Court Judge Sarah Heckman said that the move was this is a quote, an unconstitutional exercise of legislative power, and also blocked Newsom from, quote, from exercising any power under the California Emergency Services Act, which amends, alters, or changes existing statutory laws or makes new statutory laws or legislative policy. They said, watch California, because I think Trump knew he had put in some judges in California. She has blocked Mussolini from exercising any power under the California Emergency Services Act, which means he has so overstepped his authority that they're literally saying, you're done. You're done. And I think truly after this election, if you think about mayors who have re-elections, I think in 2 years, maybe 4, but I think 2 for a lot of these guys. I think they're midterm right now. Mussolini, the one in Michigan, a lot of the ones that we're seeing the issues with, Cuomo, these guys are in like their 2-year mark. So in 2 years, there's an election for a lot of these people, and I'll bet you money they don't make it. So again, all assets deployed, yet we've actually come a long way in 4 years, folks. So I know people are scared, and I get that. But even if you take the worst case, even if Biden wins, like I talked about at the beginning of this, we're still so much further along the line that I don't think their plans are going to be able to make it. Too many people are awake. And then on top of that, I'm reasonably sure, it'll depend on what happens today, but I'm reasonably sure the red wave will occur, and I think it's going to be a red tsunami, and I think we will, in the end up with Trump for another 4 years. That happens, man, sky's the limit, and a lot of cool stuff is supposed to happen. One other little piece of, wow, man, so maybe things are getting better. Well, I don't know if you guys saw that crazy video of this car. This one's pretty cool. I'm gonna mute the. Well, I can.
Running them out of Texas.
Yeah, they're talking about how they're running them. I'm just gonna mute it. But this is the scene where the truck, and it's this little white car right here. Whoop, there it goes. Little white car, and he is trying to get into where this truck was. So this whole little incident, everybody's trying to blame the Trump person, but from every angle we've seen, except the ones that the media has shown, from every angle we've seen, the truck, the blue truck that the white car hit was in the lane. The white car was drifting into that lane and was like about a third of the way into the lane and finally hit the truck. Or the truck got, I don't know, however the two collided. But what's very fun is the way that, I'll make sure it's paused. Yeah. Down here, so the at-fault vehicle may be the white SUV and the victim appears to be in the black truck, said the San Marcos PD. Calls to the driver of the white SUV have gone unanswered, and the SMPD has not been contacted by the driver of the black truck. Since SMPD has not spoken to either driver at this time, additional investigation would be required to fully ascertain who was at fault. But as it sounds, and I think the original bit of this had, they blurred the license plate intentionally, but the person filming this didn't. So they were able to read the license plate. It was supposedly a California plate and probably belonging to this, I don't know why they weren't in the bus, frankly, but whatever. They were, yay, go Biden. I don't know if they're just friends or if they're whatever. But however it played out, they're the ones that are looking to be possibly in trouble right now. So again, there is a lot of things to be hopeful for. We've gotten a bunch of judges, a bunch of people have woken up. We've got this newfound unity, the patriotism that's coming in this country right now. And just imagine when Trump wins and we have our 4th of July next year. Can you imagine, one, because we probably will have more or less conquered COVID by that point, and two, we will be well into probably some excitement into the year with Trump doing some new stuff. Our economy is going to be booming, and maybe we will finally get some of these indictments happening. Maybe finally we'll see Ray and Haspel will finally be removed. Like, we might finally get to see a lot of this exciting stuff. Think about how exciting next year's 4th of July is going to be. Truly celebrating freedom like it's never been celebrated before. Probably equal to how it was maybe after the Revolutionary War, except they didn't have hot dogs and hamburgers back then, man. We've come a long way. I'm telling you, 200 years, made some delicious foods in the process. Most important thing we remember, everybody, get out and vote. Get out and vote. Get out and make sure that you are part of this red wave. This is the most important thing, most important election that we will ever have in our lives. I can't imagine it getting any bigger than this, because whatever way, it's like we're on the tipping point, right? We're on the knife's edge, as they say, and we're going to teeter one way or the other. And I think hopefully enough of us are going to nudge us over into the freedom side, and that's where we're going to continue the path forward. We have the people, we have the support, we have the love. Most important thing I want to point out, and this is just one last little comment for those of you that are still with me. This bothered me enormously because it's Dennis Prager. Dennis Prager said this comment, and I want to remind everybody, and I'm sorry to get preachy for a moment, but this really bothers me. This is a religious man. This is someone who's really got an awesome group. Candace Owens and all those people are on the Prager University or whatever. This is not hatred of Trump versus hatred of the left. Hatred begets hatred. Hatred is not what this is about. This is about love of country, love of freedom, love of each other. It is united we stand. It is we the people. There's no room for hatred. I get the progressives are frustrating. They are. And they're like little children, but we don't hate them. Hate is dirty. Hate is a very bad energy. And hate begets or creates more hate. Now is the time to unite. Now is the time to at least be able to shake hands with somebody. Dennis Prager, I'm very ashamed and disappointed in you, sir. I hope you don't do this too much more, but maybe this is just indicative. I don't know of who you are. I don't know. I don't know you as a person, but this is your article that you've pinned, and that's horrible. So I'm just hoping that we can remember these are fellow Americans. Everybody is a fellow American. We're trying to do the right thing for the country and for the majority of the masses, even though they may not see it. And they think the same about us, folks. They think we're the blind idiots. They think we're the horrible, the deplorables. Understand, both sides of this equation are very frustrated right now. It doesn't make either side right. Ultimately, we're in this together. We are united. There is no right or wrong. There is what works best for most. What is a good direction for a majority of the people to go? Not as, what's the direction you want to go and what's the direction you want to go, and then one of us wins. No. We got to figure out a way to sort of kind of meet in the middle a little bit. So maybe some of us on the right that are a little ultra-right, maybe we got to get a little more open to a little more progressive movement in our lives. And you know what? Maybe you on the crazy ultra-progressive left, maybe you need to come back to the fact that there is something kind of cool about having a country that you're proud of, having a people that you're proud of, rather than walking around and seeing horrible in everybody. There's a meeting in the middle. All of us need to try to get along. It's very important. Where we go one, we go all. It's on the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle.